Hello everybody, my name is Benjamin Bloom. Welcome back along to the channel. Football froze on March the 13th, and a scenario played out by many is that we freeze the league right now, and for those people in promotion places, top of the league, in relegation places, that's what we're going to do. They're going to be promoted, relegated, champions, runners up, etc., etc. Some people believe that that's the right way to do it. Some people believe that is very unfair. I'm sure we'll have a complete mix of people in the comments. One thing that is for sure, self-interest runs rife amongst football fans. Let's just say what it did get me to thinking is, in terms of how fair or unfair that would be, why not have a look and see if this was done at the same point last season, who would have benefited and who would it have made things worse for? So if on March the 13th, 2019, the season stopped and we awarded everything, would that have been a good scenario, a bad scenario? Would it have made absolutely no difference whatsoever to those last games of the season? So I have had a look through all of the four divisions just to see who are the winners, who are the losers, and who, well, it's, as you were, exactly the same state of play. So let's have a look at the Premier League first. And in terms of winners here, because we're getting rid of some cup finals, there are not many. In fact, there's only one. Our main winners, if the season stopped last season on March the 13th, would be Arsenal, who were at that point in fourth place in a Champions League spot. They are going to drop down into fifth place, which would be a Europa League spot. Who knows what would happen to the European spots? We can have that debate separately if you want. But traditionally, top four Champions League, fifth spot. And we know we're not going to have this all-English Champions League final because it's just not going to happen. It's going to be cancelled. So Arsenal are winners. They would have been in the Champions League, and as it was, ended up in the Europa League. Let's move on to the losers, of which there are many. First of all, Manchester City. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, if we stop there, we're giving Manchester City the title. Well, they're going to go on and win it anyway. They've already won the EFL Cup, but we're not going to allow Manchester City to go and play in the FA Cup final against Watford, wasn't it? And hammer Watford to win another trophy. So if we stop this last season on March the 13th, Manchester City are down a trophy. And despite the fact they're going to be awarded the Premier League Championship, they're not going to win the FA Cup. You're down a trophy, that's a lose where I come from. Likewise, even bigger lose is going to be for Liverpool, who on March the 13th are second. They're obviously going to finish second in that brilliant title run-in with Manchester City. But you and I know that they went on to win the Champions League, and that game would not have taken place if the season had stopped then. So Liverpool, no sixth Champions League title. What a big lose for a team that had got all the way up to that far and not allowed to play those last few games and go on and win it. Chelsea, big losers here, because at this point in the season, they are sixth. They do have a game in hand, but they are going to jump up to third spot. So they end up in a Champions League position. And they win the Europa League as well, don't they? So they're going to be big losers in that case. Obviously, the way things then backed up, that would affect other teams. But look, Chelsea down a trophy and not in Europe, I think. Would they still have made it? Oh, God, I don't know. Man City have still won the EFL Cup. Yes, they still would have made Europe on that extra place for EFL Cup winners. But still, big losers there, Chelsea. No Champions League qualification, no Europa League trophy. And speaking of those European places dropping down even further, Wolves, well, they got into Europe. I don't know whether you see this as a win or a lose. I know Wolves fans have enjoyed this season in Europe. So no European football for Wolves last season. Obviously, I know I'm going to get some comments saying, well, someone's got to play in Europe. I'm sure they would have put people in somehow, but let's just assume this doomsday scenario, Wolves are losers. So in terms of the as you were, well, Spurs were third and dropped down to fourth. So they're in the Champions League and they end up in the Champions League, but don't get to play that final, remember. Manchester United were fifth. Arsenal end up there and United dropped to sixth, but we are assuming that because Manchester City won the EFL Cup, Man United would still have been in the Europa League. So even though one place lower, same kind of outcome financially, really. Now you get less money for finishing one place lower. For the relegated teams, completely as you were. Cardiff 18th, finished 18th. Fulham 19th, finished 19th. Huddersfield 20th, finished 20th. So the big winner in the Premier League would have been Arsenal. Everyone else pretty much losing, but it's a bit different in the Premier League because we're taking out cup finals. So let's see how that affects the other divisions. In the Championship, well, one obvious winner would have been Leeds United, who on March the 13th were in second place. And as we know, they ended up third and they lost in the playoffs. So Leeds, I assume, even if you cancel the league, you still have some kind of playoff. So, but hey, if you cancel it and you send up third place, then Leeds would have still been fine. But the big winners there, Leeds dropping from second to third. That one step in the league you really don't want to be in the Championship, from second down to third. The big losers would have been Sheffield United, who would have had to go and play a playoff against Derby County. You'd have still backed the Blades, given what happened with them last season. But hey, do you want to get promoted after 46 games or play another 3 in a knockout? That's a lose, if you ask me. Bigger losers, though, were Middlesbrough, who were in 5th spot on March 13th. But by the end of the season, had dropped out of the playoff pictures. Parachute payments gone. Pulis gone. A few more players out the door. Big difference for Borough. We all know if you don't have that parachute money, you are up against it, against those that do in the Championship. The biggest losers and the biggest out of any division may be Aston Villa, who are at this point are in 8th position. So would not have even made the playoffs. They're in the midst of a 10-game unbeaten run. We know how it played out. They go through and beat Derby in that playoff final. But in this scenario, no promotion, parachute payments have run out, Grealish gets sold, those good loan players, Abraham, Mings, Tuanzebe, the team's going to be a lot worse, going to be a lot different for Aston Villa if you ended that season on March the 13th. Big losers. In terms of as you were, Norwich were top, finished top, fine. West Brom 4th, they were going in the playoffs anyway. Derby were in 6th place, so that's an as you were. They're both going to finish in exactly the same spot, West Brom and Derby. And your relegation teams, Rotherham, Bolton and Ipswich, all going to stop in the same positions and be relegated. So Championship, biggest winners, Leeds, biggest losers, probably Villa, if the season had stopped March the 13th. Let's have a look at League One and the big winners there. Well, there aren't too many. They mainly come at the bottom of the table. You could say Charlton were winners in the fact that they move up from 5th place, I think, to 3rd. So a different playoff opponent for them. Winners down the bottom of the table, though, because Walsall, they're going to drop into the relegation zone if you play the last month or so of the season. In this scenario, they survive, as do Scunthorpe, who are safe at this point and end up surviving. Losers, well, Sunderland, depends what you think. They're going to finish in the playoffs, but different opponents for sure. They dropped down from 3rd place in their semi-finals against Portsmouth instead of, it would have been Doncaster. Big losers, though, Rochdale and Wimbledon, who both are in the bottom 3 at this point and are ultimately going to escape. Well, they would be relegated, and out they go. So big losers there. As you were, Luton top, Barnsley 2nd, both going to stay there, fine. Pompey going to stay in 4th, Doncaster 6th. Bradford, as you were, in the relegation zone and are going to be relegated, which takes us all the way down to League 2 now, where our winners are Mansfield, who are in 3rd at this point in an automatic promotion spot. They're going to be overtaken by MK Dons, but if we stop the season in March, no, Mansfield are going to be promoted, even though, as it played out, that would not have happened. Newport are going to find their way into the playoffs. So they're going to be a winner from outside. Yeovil, a 22nd. So they're going to survive in the Football League, but are going to end up bottom. So Yeovil would be winners here in that they drop another 2 places in that final stretch of the season. So winners there. Losers, MK Dons would have missed out on automatic promotion. Colchester miss out on the playoffs. And Macclesfield are bottom at this point and are going to survive. and that is not going to happen the way we play it out. As you were, Lincoln and Bury. I mean, how we can call Bury and As You Were when we know what's going to happen to them. But you take my point. We'll park that information for the time being. As You Were, Tranmere and Forest Green are going to swap places. So who plays home first in the playoffs? And Notts County are still going to be relegated. So that is my little rewriting of history. If you had stopped last season on March the 13th, let's do quick little summary. Big winners would have been Arsenal, would have been Leeds, Walsall and Scunthorpe. Mansfield and Yeovil are the big winners there. And the big losers, no FA Cup for Man City, no Champions League for Liverpool, no Champions League victory, no Champions League football for Chelsea, no European football for Wolves, no automatic promotion for Sheffield United, no playoffs for Borough, no playoffs for Villa, and probable financial ruin going forward there. Different playoff opponents for Sunderland, relegation for Rochdale and Wimbledon when it ultimately didn't happen. MK Dons are not going to get promoted automatically. Colchester are not going to make the playoffs, and Macclesfield are going to be relegated despite surviving. So I think you'll all see the losers there outnumbering the winners. Hey, if that maybe colours your opinion of how things should play out this season, then let me know in the comments. If not, just a little bit of fun on maybe why we need to complete the season given all those losers and not too many winners. But hey, that's a whole nother debate that we've had many times and probably will continue to do so. But let me know what you think in the comments on my little memory lane rejig, and if we had frozen things in a parallel universe on March the 13th, 2019, how would it have affected your club? Would you be up in arms or would you be happy? Let me know in the comments. Follow me on Twitter at Benjamin Bloom. Hit the bell, hit subscribe, even ring the bell on YouTube. And I will see you on the next video as we continue to debate that scenario that I've just played out for last season. Thank you for watching.